Yes, I made a fool of myself. Okay, so you obviously know why you clicked on this video, and it's to hear my story about how and why and what happened when I left the mic on. Definitely not one of my finest moments, I will tell you that for sure. So I was a young little whippersnapper in my early days of private pilot training, and I was on about my third solo flight. So I fly out of a pretty small airport, uncontrolled, no tower. There's not a whole lot of traffic, not a whole lot of people flying in the sky. So I was pretty much up by myself. I was just doing touch and goes. My instructor wanted me to do some touch and goes in the pattern. So I was just practicing landings, just, touching and going. As I'm doing some touch and goes and I'm coming on final, I notice a Bonanza in the taxi in the run-up area, getting ready for takeoff. So I make a mental note of that, and I keep going. Now, I'm by myself, okay? I get a little bit lonesome. And when I get lonesome, I try to entertain myself to make me not lonesome. And one of the ways I entertain myself is singing, and I am so bad. So let me tell you, I don't remember what I was singing. Lady Gaga, something weird, right? And so I'm just up in the sky, and I'm singing to myself like, my checklists and stuff, right? So I'm like, gas is on, mixture is rich, gear down and welded. Doing one of those funny little numbers. And just talking to myself, right? Having a grand old time. When you're flying and you're talking in your headset, you can hear yourself in your headset. So when you're talking, you can hear yourself. So that way you know that, and that's so that you know what's being transmitted and what it's sounding like as best as it can to other pilots. And so when you're transmitting in, meaning to just on board that aircraft, you still hear yourself. You also hear yourself when you're transmitting out on whatever frequency you're on. So somehow the mic button on the steering yoke had gotten stuck just enough to where everybody could hear me. But like I said, I was alone. And, even though there's not a whole lot of airplanes in the sky, there's not a whole lot of traffic going on, there's still other people listening, right? Like the airport manager's probably listening. The fuel service boys are probably listening. Guys, people working on their airplanes in the hangar, they're all listening, okay? So it's almost like a silent type of embarrassment. I don't know. I'm getting too far ahead of myself. So anyway, I'm singing along, doing my checklist, doing fine and dandy, right? So finally, this Bonanza below me is ready for takeoff, and I'm on final. And I decide, okay, this is going to be my last one. I'm going to do a full stop landing. So, I announce a full stop, pull off the runway, doing my little landing checklist, and then I'm getting ready to taxi on into the fuel pit. And all I hear on the radio is, thank you. Like, that's what she said. She goes, thank you, and then makes her radio call and just takes off and is off into the sunset going somewhere. And I was taxiing in. I'm just thinking, like, what? Why did she say thank you? Like, because, on radio communications isn't like a phone call. You don't just say things unnecessarily. Everything you say has a purpose. And, it can get a little more relaxed at these airports without control. The radio traffic tends to be more relaxed. Which is sometimes a bad thing. But so I'm just like, why did she say that? So I was doing what's called a supervised solo, which is where my flight instructor is still on the ground, listening to the radio traffic and paying attention, and is there in case anything goes wrong. So I walk into the office with the flight school owner and my flight instructor, and they are just they're chuckling, right? They're laughing. So, hey, did you have a fun flight? And I go, yeah, it was good, How'd it go? Any rough landings? No, I think it's pretty good. One that I wasn't too proud of, but nothing really, right? And they go, oh, yeah. And they start I think they started humming one of the songs that I was singing, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Finally, they just laid into me. They're like, your radio was on the whole time. Everybody could hear you. You're just singing along, doing your checklist. It was pretty funny. And so now I finally understood why the Bonanza said thank you. She was making fun of me. When you're keying the microphone and you are the one speaking on the microphone, nobody else is able to transmit on that frequency. So if I have my radio key down and I'm talking and another airplane puts their radio key down, I'm going to be stepping on them. So you're only going to hear me even though they're trying to talk. This happens a lot by accident, but so on a busy day with other airplanes in the sky, I would have noticed that my mic was on, because it would have been like a good while since I heard anybody, and I would have been like, huh, and then probably checked. But because there's nobody in the sky, I wasn't expecting any radio traffic because I was alone. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely an embarrassing story. Luckily, I don't have anything too bad for my private pilot training. I didn't break any landing gear or do anything crazy like that. So that's probably one of my less finer moments in training. But these things happen. I learned a lesson from it. As a pilot, you should never be doing nothing. Even if there's nothing, you think that there's nothing to do, there's always something to do. There's always something to double check, or there's always something to think about. There's always something to plan, or there's always some calculations you can run. I learned that, even check the minute things that you really think won't make a difference. Check the transmit light to make sure that you're not transmitting constantly. And so just constantly be scanning your panel and making sure that all that stuff is good to go. If you have any funny stories about flying or you've heard any, please leave them in the comments below. They're always fun to read. Anyway, guys, I will catch you in the next one. AJ is out. Subscribe for a cookie.